Are you also practicing self-quarantine? Because while a lot of people are cribbing about it, history has it that some major breakthroughs were made by people only because they were in quarantine. So let's tell you about these people and what they were actually able to achieve. Let's start with our first story, and for this we're going to take you back in time. It's 1665 and the Great Plague had just hit London. With the outbreak of the epidemic, schools, colleges and other institutions started to shut down. Cambridge University did very much the same. To protect students from the disease, they started sending the students back to their homes. Now, one such student in his early 20s decided to spend most of his quarantine time in his garden, where he saw an apple fall from a tree. And eureka! It led him to publish his groundbreaking theory on gravity and motion. That same year, he also wrote multiple papers on calculus and optics. So, well, who is this person? Any guesses? Sir Isaac Newton. Now let's meet our second artist, for which we'll need to transport you to the Elizabethan era. The outbreak of the deadly bubonic plague had not only claimed lives, but also forced people into quarantine. And even in small countryside areas, farmers were also homebound because of the epidemic. So now you can call it work from home if you want, but the man we are referring to was a playwright who did not let the deadly disease discourage him. And he began writing his plays sitting alone in a room. So who are we talking about? He is none other than William Shakespeare, who wrote plays like King Lear, Macbeth and Antony Cleopatra during this time. So now let's introduce you to a painter going by the name of Edvard Munch. From his childhood, Munch would frequently fall sick. His immunity was low and as a result, he frequently fell ill. He had contracted the Spanish flu, a pandemic that had hit in 1918. But just like the other gentlemen we've spoken about, even he was not ready to let the disease win over him. So with whatever resources he had, Munch catalogued his physical state through a series of paintings. One of his most famous works of art is The Scream, which remains to be one of the most iconic images of world art. Thomas Nache fled to the countryside to quarantine himself, and it was during this time that he was actually able to write his first solo authored play, Summer's Last Will and Testament. Last but definitely not the least, we'll now like to introduce you to a Florentine writer and poet from the 14th century, Giovanni Boccaccio. While he was affected by the bubonic plague, he decided to isolate himself in the Tuscan countryside. Now, it was here that he wrote a series of novellas talking about the quarantine life and about people and other stories that took place. This series was written in the Florentine language and is considered a masterpiece in the Italian prose. Now, if you still don't feel motivated by all of this, we still have more for you. Did you know that Mahatma Gandhi wrote My Experiments with Truth while he was in Yerwada jail? Not only this, Nelson Mandela and Jawaharlal Nehru also wrote some classic pieces while they served their time in prison. So, all in all, if you are self-quarantined, stop cribbing and just ask yourself, what will you create today? Keep calm and stay safe.